Hi everyone. So we all know change is the only constant, and when we are working in organizations, it's imperative that the people in the team keep changing, and there may be a change in the manager that you are working with. There may also be a change in the leadership, or you may also change organizations, and people keep moving between teams, between organizations, which means there is always teaming and reteaming, which we call as dynamic reteaming, that keeps happening. And if you look at the major dysfunctions that can impact a team to be high performing, especially I'm looking at the five dysfunctions of a team. So the fundamental or the foundational dysfunction is absence of trust, and it then starts leading towards all other dysfunctions and impacting what we actually deliver as an outcome as a team, together as a team. So from that point of view, trust and how you form trust plays a significant role in how a team can perform, over a given period of time. And when we as individuals start getting into new teams, or new members start coming into our own teams, or we move across organizations, then it's imperative for us to establish the level of trust much faster than other way around, means than thinking that probably you will start showcasing your work, or trying to establish yourself. If you have to establish yourself, or if you have to establish the team or your role in the team, so it's important that we start establishing trust. And trust is never binary. It's not that either we trust someone or someone trusts us, or someone don't. There are different levels of trust that we can develop, and the ultimate level of trust, we know that it's trusting someone with your life, right? So that is something we are looking to address today, how you can build trust faster. So let's try and dissect a bit deeper into this particular topic. I'm Nivarthi Jairam, and I'm an executive coach and also a transformation leader that I've led transformations for organizations for last 15 plus years, and I'm trying to share my view of how you can build trust faster. And let's get into the topic right away. So from that point of view, when you look at building trust faster, what is trust, right? So and what all we will address today, we will of course introduce what trust is, and then we will also talk about different ways to establish credibility, ways to increase reliability, intimacy, and how you can negate focusing on yourself. And also we will try and see what all tools and techniques can we look at when we are trying to build trust across teams, right? So let's get right into it. Now, this is a famous quote. Again, trust is built when no one is looking at you. That means when we are looking to build trust, we should not be trying to do that when somebody is with us, when somebody is looking at us, when somebody is conversing with us. It should be a natural process. It should always happen. It's not that it happens in isolation, or specifically you are looking to make it happen. It's more of a conscious, subconscious, and unconscious effort that needs to go into building trust with anyone and everyone that we interact with. That is a great quote from Seth Godin, and it's something which we need to be conscious about. Now let's try and look at trust equation, and I know many people would have definitely heard about it. So trust is equal to credibility, reliability, intimacy, and negative self orientation, which means if you are able to prove that you have credibility, and if you are reliable practicing what you preach, or many other things which we will look into building reliability, and you are able to have and establish intimate relationship. When we say intimate relationship, the closeness with which, the bonding which you can develop with your team members, that will start enhancing your levels of trust between you and the person you are looking to build trust with, or group of people you are trying to build trust with. And that is something we will also focus on. And last but not the least, trust is greatly impacted by where your orientation is. Means, are you looking always at what you want to accomplish, or what you want to celebrate, or what you want to be recognized for? If you are always focused on your own self, then it's very difficult to build trust, and that is what we call as self orientation, right? So how you can shift your orientation from being focused on yourself to being focused on other members of the team, what we are looking to achieve together as an outcome for the team, for the organization, or for the group that you are functioning with, right? That is something also very important. So that majorly is about the trust equation. So trust is equal to credibility, reliability, and intimacy. Of course, it is negatively impacted by self orientation. So now moving on from there, let's look at what can help us establish credibility. So when you talk about credibility, right, so when you look at figuring out how do you believe people are credible, when do you believe people are credible, right? One, if you are able to provide thought leadership, that means where it is proven, you have a lot of patents in your name, you have published research papers, right, or you have published white papers, you have been part of a research study that has been done, and you as a group are able to publish that as a white paper. That means you are contributing to something which is reliable, which is measurable, which is visible to everybody. Are you able to come out with out of the box thinking, right? That is something which can definitely help you establish credibility. The second element that you can look at when you are trying to establish credibility again is about you being a proven authority. When I say authority, it's not about you being the CIO, or you being the technology head, or you being the manager of a team. No, that I'm not talking about that authority. Not authority by position, authority by views, authority by the knowledge, and authority by the experience, authority by expertise. So that would come from you being able to authoring books. That means you are able to conceptualize your expertise, or conceptualize your experience, your ideas, and then you are able to come out with something that is tangible for sharing with people. Or writing blogs, right, or writing journals, where you are able to express your views clearly, your perceptions clearly, your understanding of a topic very clearly, right? That is also something which can help you establish credibility. The next point that we also can think of is authenticity. So when you are recognized, so for every domain, if you are a coach, if you are a transformational leader, if you are a cyber security expert, that means when in your domain, those whom we consider as key influencers, or already known credible people, when they start endorsing you in that particular field of expertise, that also helps you to establish your credibility. Someone recognizing you as an expert in the field where they are known to be an expert, they endorse you from that point of view. So that also can build your credibility. When you're going and delivering, keynote speeches or any regular speeches in conferences, that also gives you authenticity, and authenticity can and will help you build, credibility as well. And then the next element also to look at is rewards and recognitions from credible institutions and forums. So when you are able to showcase certain accomplishments that you have achieved, yes, there is a certain forum that is able to recognize, and there is a credibility built for that recognition itself. And when you accomplish that recognition, then by design you also start establishing your credibility. So credibility can also come from that particular point of view. And then verified credentials, again, we all know that someone, if someone comes and says, yes, I have studied at Harvard, I have studied at an MIT, or in India, if you say IIT or BITS Pilani or IISc, I'm just taking example. So when you have credentials from these institutions which are well recognized, which are known for, and which are established worldwide, established their credibility tremendously, or INSEAD for that matter. So from that point of view, when you have these credentials, automatically your credibility also starts growing. We all see that someone having worked even in some firms which are known to be very well recognized in the market for the way they function, GE for example, or Infosys. When you have those companies in your profile, people look at you differently, they look at your credibility much differently. Those are only one or two companies, but there are many in the world which can bring you credibility, right? So that is another definite point which can help you establish credibility. So verified credentials, then of course experience and expertise. So where you can prove that you as an individual have delivered certain critical programs for the organization, and that has created an impact either within the organization or even beyond, right, and is recognized to be a piece of outcome or a credible outcome that is valued by everybody in the organization, then even that can build your credibility, right? So those are the things which can bring you credibility. But then how? It's all about how you can build credibility. What behaviors can you exhibit in order to build that trust? It's the behaviors, it's our habits that are our patterns that we showcase on day-to-day basis in every interaction that helps us build trust. So it's also important for us to focus on the behaviors that can build credibility. So if you look at that, when you are getting into a team, how you can build a clear credibility for yourself, which again contributes to trust. One, provide clear visibility of your strengths. That means let the team know what you bring to the table, and we will see what tools can help you do that, right? So what are your competencies, what are your strengths, what is the experience, what is the expertise, what you bring as value to the team, and how you can complement the existing strengths within the team. What uniqueness you bring to the team which can help the team to reach the next level, right, in terms of becoming a better team, or a continuously high performing team, or a continuously evolving team. So that is something definitely to think about. Articulate and showcase how you can add value to the team, right? That is another point. Then transparent sharing of knowledge. When you get into a new team and it falls in a borderline, right? So when they might feel you are trying to show off, then how you can be very subtle in telling the team that okay, this is probably something I bring as an expertise, and I am open to share what I know if it helps you. So it's about how you put it across differentiates whether you are trying to kind of show off or you are trying to put it as a opportunity to help the team become better or help the team to deliver the outcomes that we as a team are looking for. So it's again another point. So being open to sharing knowledge and presenting it in a way that is more acceptable for the team is another way you can build credibility. The next point again, be open to help and provide value those in need. That means even if people are not asking for help, if you see that there is a need, it's okay to go and ask, okay, I feel possibly I can contribute here, I can probably help you here. If they say no, perfectly fine, that's how it can go. But it's okay being proactive, being open, and putting your hand up to say, yes, if you need something, this is an expertise I have and I am here to help. Right? That is another element also to think about. And always when you get into the team, the major I would say again constraint we can have is trying to establish ourselves, which means you come into the team with the mindset of competing with the best person in the team which means we try and see how I can prove to be the best person in the team. When we say that may be in terms of skill, that may be in terms of competence, or that may be in terms of how quickly you can deliver an outcome than the best person in the team. And that's nothing wrong, because we are all born with born in a culture of competence, and we are born and brought up with that competitive mindset. But when you are looking to get into a team, establish yourself in the team, you should look to more collaborate. You should think about how we can accomplish something great as a team, even if your contribution is not that high. Even if you contribute only a little, but if that helps the team to achieve greater outcomes, that should be perfectly fine. Which means you should always look to collaborate with the team and look for all opportunities with all the team members and your peers, I would not say at all levels of hierarchy, right? So that is something. And then be truthful in what you speak, right? It's not about boasting something which you don't know. So be truthful, be talking about facts. This is what it is and this is who I am, and that definitely helps you to build credibility as a member of the team. So be truthful and practice what you preach. When you tell somebody that okay, when somebody is in need, it's okay for us to go and help, even if that person doesn't ask, then are you living by that principle as well, right? So if you are telling that to the team members, then it's important that you as a member of the team also is showcasing that particular behavioral aspect within the team as well, right? So that is another point for us to think about. So if you are getting value again from what we are discussing, please like and subscribe the video, and you can hit the subscribe button below and also like the video. And if you feel there is something else that could help us build credibility, please do post in the comments. And if you have any questions, again feel free to post in the comments. Happy to pick up and answer, or try to answer. If I don't know, get back to the experts and mutually find an answer. So that's about establishing credibility. Now let's move ahead into the next element. The next element that we talked about after credibility was reliability. How reliable you are, how much can the team rely on you, is what reliability is. And for that, let's see what can you think of when you are trying to increase reliability. So what behaviors can you think about when you are trying to increase reliability in the team? Means how much team can rely on you? Any thoughts? Okay, so let's see what it could be. The major thing is how predictable are you on a day-to-day basis, right? How predictable you can be in different situations. If there is lot of unpredictability about yourself, people, whether it's in the team or at work or outside of work, they will definitely not trust you because they don't know what to expect from you in a given situation. That will not generate reliability. So definitely that means I cannot rely on you to showcase or exhibit a certain type of behavior or a certain type of emotion in a given situation or context, and that is very important if you are looking to build reliability. Predictability of behaviors, predictability of actions, the decision making patterns, which means how do you think, how do you make decisions, and what aspects you look for when you are looking to make decisions. That will also mean that your way of making decisions and what decisions you will make, team can rely and team can expect those things, and that is something again you have to be really more visible about, more predictable about. And then be open and transparent in your communication, right? So are you communicating openly with the team? Are you transparent in making them understand what you are feeling, what you are experiencing, what you are thinking, right? What you believe, what your values are as an individual. So we all have values, and I strongly believe that our values drive our behaviors. Our values drive our belief system, and our belief system and values together influence how we behave in any given context or scenario. So it's important to let them understand this is what I believe, and these are my core values that I rely on, that I depend on when I am faced with certain situations, and that can definitely build a reliability within the team. And then if you come across as a person who is trying to project himself or herself as I know everything, then it's very difficult for anybody in the world to rely on you. So it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to say that I don't know this, or I need some help to understand this, or I'm really not getting what you are trying to convey, right? It's okay to be vulnerable. So vulnerability and exhibiting vulnerability is also a key to building trust and reliability. And when we say vulnerability, it's not just about you being vulnerable, it's also about accepting others' vulnerability as well. And we did a great session on vulnerability with Chris. Again, I can drop a card here, you can go and see that video. We talked at length about vulnerability. So vulnerability is again a topic in itself, you can always look at that, but vulnerability is the key. Not just about you being vulnerable, it's also about accepting others when they say they don't know. You cannot be critical of that, and that also is important. The next element, be open to ask for help, and again this is something falls into the ambit of vulnerability, right? Be open to say I possibly need help here, and that comes when you have a good level of awareness about what you know and what you don't know, what your strengths and limitations are, and you are vulnerable. So that is something. Asking for help, and keep asking for feedback when you are new in the team and team is already gelling well together amongst themselves, and you are trying to establish yourself. it's important to go ahead and ask feedback on how they are looking at you, how they are perceiving you, and be specific about what feedback you want, what aspects of your personality or behavior that you want feedback on. Be specific, so that otherwise you get feedback about everything, probably how you dress, how you move, how you sit. That may not be what you are looking for from feedback perspective. Be specific about what feedback you are looking for, but it's important to seek feedback from time to time when you are trying to build that reliability. So frequent feedback is something which you need to look at. Then consistency in delivery and taking ownership for actions, right? So that is again, whatever you are committing, are you delivering on your commitment? And then number 2, if you are not, if you fail in something, are you open to accept that, okay, this is something I did and probably it failed. That means you are taking ownership for your own actions. So are you doing that? That is another important behavioral aspect which can help you build reliability. Showing commitment means delivering what you commit in the team, for the team, and then also about taking ownership for your actions. And of course, if you take ownership for your actions, only then you will can commit and deliver what you have committed. So that is another important behavior that you need. And last but not the least and most important thing, don't speak behind somebody's back. So if you have something to share, and it's important to share with that person whom you want to provide that feedback. So be open and transparent, and you can go and talk to them, but be very understanding of how they look for feedback and how they want to accept feedback, because everybody's way of taking feedback and accepting feedback is different. Somebody is okay to take the feedback even in a group setting, but some people you see that they want to be given feedback one-on-one. Somebody likes the feedback to be spoken about, somebody wants the feedback in written, somebody wants a clear evidence of the feedback. And also there is a great feedback mechanism, clean language feedback. It talks about evidence, inference, and impact. So focus your feedback on evidences, not on your assumptions or what you perceive it to be. That is your inference. What is the evidence for providing that feedback? It should be very clearly visible and quantified for, or having that qualitative aspect for people to see. It should be a fact. And then you can talk about what you thought through when you saw that evidence, or what inference you made when you thought that evidence, and how it impacted you as a person or the team overall from your perspective. So that is something as a clean feedback. Probably we can I'll do a separate video on that. It's a great mechanism to use as a clean feedback. So that is something which you can think about, providing clean feedback. So we covered how to build credibility and how to build reliability. Again, if you are getting value from the video, please hit the subscribe button, like the video, and also put your comments on what else you think we can showcase as our behaviors in order to be able to build credibility and reliability. And now we get into the next element of trust, which we call as intimacy. Intimacy is about developing that closeness in relationship and building that rapport with the team or with the person that you want to build trust about. and how close your bonding is, right? That is something. So let's see what can help us build intimacy or enhance the intimacy, because even when you start, there will be a certain level of intimacy. There is no ground zero, but how do you enhance it to the level that people can be very open with you at a level of comfort that you both have, right? And that comfort level keeps increasing as the level of trust keeps growing within the team, between you and the person whom you are intending to. So the first thing, always think about when you face conflicts, and we all face conflicts, because when you talk about building a team or being getting integrated into a team, we talk about the Tuckman's model, right? So the forming, storming, norming, and performing, and of course adjoining. So which means there will be storming, there will be conflicts, but how are you looking at conflicts? Are you looking at conflict as a conflict as an issue between people, or is it an issue between two different perspectives, or two different views, or two different understandings? So if you make it about people, then it becomes an ego issue. That means then you want to prove I am right or you are right. Then it's very difficult to get into a win-win situation. If you take people out of a conflict and focus on what actually the problem is, not making people as the problem, then it becomes much easier to solve, and that makes it much easier to make it a win-win for everybody, because then it takes the egos out of the equation. It's about solving that problem and how we can solve that problem for which can work for both parties. But when you put people into the problem, and the problem is about people than the problem itself, then only one can win. It's very difficult for both parties to win. So that is where always look at conflict more constructively and try to make it as a win-win situation, win-win resolution for everyone in the team. So that is something which can definitely help you. Managing better conflicts better can definitely help you build that intimacy, right? So the next element we look at is showing empathy for others and open to sharing learnings and failures. Whether you are succeeding or you are failing or learning, it's important to share, and it's more about celebrating failures than celebrating success. And when I say that, people always question, how do we celebrate failures? But how do you celebrate success? You start, whenever you accomplish something great as a team, you start publishing, sending emails to everybody, right from top. You start publishing in newsletters, you start publishing in the reports, but how many of our failures do we do the same? That we as a team did this particular release and we failed for this particular reason, and this is what we have learned to take this forward and not do this again. So the way we celebrate success, we should also look to celebrate failures, and when you do that, that also builds lot of credibility, reliability, and also intimacy, because people know that whether you succeed or whether you fail, you are going to share it with everyone, so that if you are succeeding, they know how to succeed. If you are failing, they know how not to fail, and that is another important aspect to talk about. Showing empathy for others, again, when you are dealing, and this also helps when you are dealing with conflicts, right? So if there is a conflict, if there is a situation and somebody is behaving in a certain fashion which is not probably to the way you expected, try to understand what is the background behind that, or where it is coming from. Put yourself in that person's shoes, understand what emotions they are going through and what has contributed to those emotions being created in the first place, and then you will start thinking differently than responding instantly the moment you see certain behavior, right? So that empathy plays a crucial role when you start putting yourself in the other person's shoes. You start realizing and looking at the circumstances differently from their lens, and try to understand, okay, did my behavior at certain point in time cause this reaction or this response? Did the way I addressed a certain situation or a context, or my interaction with this person or interaction with the group, cause this person to behave in this fashion? So that reflection starts again, and the reflection definitely helps you to think and respond differently to the same situation, probably with the same person. So empathy is again a great element for us, or important element to be looked into. Display high levels of emotional intelligence. So it's all about self-awareness and self-management, and emotional intelligence is about the level of self-awareness you have and level of self-management you can exhibit, and that will lead to better social awareness and social management. And having high level of emotional intelligence helps you to understand, okay, in a given situation what is happening within you, and whether it is right for you to respond at that point of time, and whether the response or reaction you are providing will result fruitfully for that situation itself. Is it in the interest of the team? So those things come up if you have a higher level of emotional intelligence, and the more you start displaying higher level of emotional intelligence, people start relying more on you, and that leads to greater intimacy. That means they come and are openly able to share their own emotions or their own feelings, their own experiences, and that leads to better intimacy and better levels of trust, right? So that is another one. Listening to others with right intent and proactively looking to enhance the status of relationship. When you are listening to somebody, when they are speaking, what are you listening for? This is again an important element. What is the intent? We all talk about active listening. It's very great, you are actively listening, but what are you listening for? And this is another critical topic that probably I would also like to do a video on my views to express. And if you have any views on this, please again you can put in the comments below. When you listen to someone, start reflecting, what are you listening for? Are you listening to criticize that person? Are you listening to understand? Are you listening to question? What are you listening for? You can listen for hundreds of things, but what are you listening for? Active listening is absolutely fine, but if you are listening with right intent, so what is the intent behind your listening, right? Listen with right intent. The reason for which you are listening to the person should be right, and that is something. Otherwise, if you are listening to find only faults in what somebody is talking, you can find 100 faults, and that is something which is important. Now, proactively looking to enhance the status of relationship, that means you are not trying to find faults in people that you are interacting with. You are trying to look at more positives in that relationship, positives in that person, what you can take from anybody you are interacting with, what you can learn. We all have positives, we all have negatives. So what is that you can take away from that person, rather than what is that you probably dislike in the person in front of you. So focus on the positives than the negatives, right? So that also will help you in a way that the more you focus on the positives, that means you are more positive in developing that relationship, positive in the conversation. Otherwise you are always with a negative mindset. The moment you get to that person in a conversation, you always negativity starts reflecting in how you are speaking to that person, right? That is something which can always reflect. Then again, have fun and participate in teams social gatherings and recognize and appreciate. These are two things. It's not always about showcasing your strengths. It's also about the ability to recognize what value others bring to the table, what strengths others bring to the table, and appreciate truly with true intent and rightfully for them, so that you are showcasing. And everybody wants validation, right? They like being recognized, they like being appreciated, and we all do. So when you start really recognizing their strengths and start appreciating them, that also starts developing the strength of relationship. They also feel, okay, this person understands me quite well. And many times when you probably appreciate somebody for a certain behavior, they may not have realized that they are exhibiting that behavior, and that may be a blind spot for them. So you are helping them even recognize their own blind spot. Okay, I never realized this is something that I do, right? So that also can strengthen the relationship to a great extent. Okay, so that is another element. And last but not the least, we said have fun, right, and participate in social gatherings. And when the team is going out for lunches or having a coffee or tea together, go ahead and participate and start listening to the way they interact, and that gives you a lot of understanding of how they like to interact, how they like to speak, how they like to go about their lives, and that gives you a lot of insights into realigning the way you interact with them. So these are some things which are more on the positive side. So we talked about credibility, we talked about reliability, and we also talked about intimacy. And how are you feeling at this point of time? When you listen to all this, are you reflecting, okay, am I displaying some or more or all of these behaviors, or you are thinking, okay, this is something which is great and I can go ahead and probably practice in my different scenarios and contexts, and could be of value. Please do drop in your comments below, and if you have any thoughts, any additions, or any suggestions to what is being spoken about so far, please again put in the comments below, and I would love to understand your viewpoint as well. Now moving on to the last one, and we talked about the next element, which is our negating self-orientation. How can you not always focus on yourself and shift your focus or orientation more towards the person in front of you, or the team, or the group, or the organization? And that is something which will exponentially contribute in building trust. How do you shift that, right? First, be open to others' ideas and respect their views. That means when you are in a conversation, it's we are all passionate about what we think, we are passionate about what we know, we are driven by our experiences, and many times we feel what we are saying is the most correct thing in the world, and it could be true as well. But be open to listen to others' ideas. Don't go with a preconceived mindset or a prejudice into the meeting, or already a decision that you have thought about, right? Don't go with a preconceived mindset. Go with an open mind, try and listen to everybody in the group, and you will see that many times there could be hundreds of ideas which are much better than what you have thought about or what you have experienced, which come to the fore, and they may be much easier to implement or much more valuable for the organization or the team that you are working in. So that cannot happen until unless you are open to listen to others' ideas, you have respect for others' views, and you are listening with right intent. And again, that comes back here as well. So that is one important element, or two important things. Be open to appreciate and recognize others' contributions. Even when probably you have been recognized by the organizations, because not all organizations are still so progressive that they have moved from recognizing individuals to moving to a team wise recognitions. That means even if you have recognized, please acknowledge and appreciate how your team has contributed to the success, and how it was a team success, and of course your contribution has been recognized. But sharing what others contributed in making you contribute better also can help shift the focus only being on you to the whole team, the contribution of the whole team, and that is also will help you greatly in building trust faster. Next, prioritize others' needs over yours. If you don't have a pressing need, a mandated need, you can always look to say, okay, I think if take a example of taking leave during a holiday period, and we all want to take leaves when there are long weekends, and if there is a release happening, right? If somebody has planned something with family and everything is already done, if your vacation at that point of time is possible to be moved to a next state, go ahead and do it. And again, that's one of the elements, one of the examples that I'm giving up. But otherwise, there could be hundreds of needs on a day-to-day basis. Are you able to put others before you? And that is something, and that is based on how open you are to acknowledge their need to be more prioritized or more mandated than your need, and that is something to think about. Focus on team goals than personal goals, and enjoy others' success as much as yours. So that is another important thing, right? Focus on team's goals. Even if your contribution is small, if the team is able to accomplish what we as a team have committed for, it should be wonderful. So think about what we as a team want to accomplish. Think about what we as an organization wants to accomplish, we as a group want to accomplish, and then if you are able to prioritize that than you being the best, then that would be great. And if you being the best can help in team accomplishing what they have set out for, definitely you should aim for that. But the focus is or should not be on always us being the best. It's all about the team being the best, the team being high performing, the team being continuously evolving, team being recognized. If that is your goal overall, I think you would have nailed it, right? So that is another point. Respect others' time as much as yours. And again, last but not the least, this is an important point. Again, I am highlighting that be conscious of everyone's preferences, how they like to be communicated. Somebody likes to be informed on WhatsApp. Many people don't like WhatsApp, they like email. Somebody wants to be called over a phone, and they all might have their own preferences. Somebody likes to be called in a or addressed with a certain way, right? And if that is their preference, respect their preferences, and the more you do it, the more it comes naturally from you, and you don't look more polarized in a conversation, the better it would be for the faster you would start developing your intimacy with those people. Your reliability also improves, and they start giving you more space when you are having conversation with themselves or in the group setting. So, and that caters for building trust faster. So this again was, I'm not saying this is the way to build trust faster, but this is something I have experienced and I have experimented in trying to build trust faster with the people I interact on day-to-day basis, and it has helped me, to a large extent. So that is something you can think of, and if it helps you, definitely yes. And if you think that okay, there is something else that we can look at, definitely we can, please drop in the comments, and I'll be happy to see what you are thinking. Now moving on to the last point within this video that I wanted to make. Now, what are the tools and techniques that you think will help in developing this? Now, personal map is a great tool. What does personal map do? Personal map again helps you to represent your experience, to talk clearly about what expertise you bring to the table, what skills you bring to the table, what competencies you bring to the table, and it also helps you to talk about what values you carry, how do you live by, what values you live by, what beliefs drive your behaviors, right? And also what accomplishments you have to showcase to the team when you are getting newly into the team. When you go and present your personal map, it would be great for people to look at, okay, this is what he or she has done, this is what he or she brings to the table, this is the value that they have, and this is how we can expect this person to be in the team. And they start thinking more about, okay, how can this person's strengths or everything that the person brings can complement and add value to the team. So personal map is a great tool to use, and again I can do a video on personal map itself separately. Then personality tests, again it talks about, when you look at a personality test, it talks about your behavior patterns, what your beliefs are, again your personality style, how you think and make decisions, what is your mental model, mental construct, and that brings to the fore. So you are an extrovert or you are an introvert, whether you look at people more from an analytical perspective or a feeling perspective. So those things also help when you are forming a new team. If you are trying to do a personality test for everyone and they are openly sharing it, you will know if someone is an introvert in the team, you know that person will not speak until unless prodded. Then how can you include that person if you don't know that? If you know that somebody is an introvert, you can start trying to engage that person actively in the conversation. That means this person is not going to express their views, they probably are going to keep it with themselves. And if you have to build trust with that person, that means you have to be more proactive. And that you would know only if you know what their personality is. If you don't do the test, you may still know, but it may take much longer for you to understand the person and then start moderating your own behaviors for that situation or that context. But doing these will help you do it faster, and that is the key. And then 360-degree feedback, and when you do 360-degree feedback, we'll look at 4 different quadrants, right? Known knowns, known unknowns, unknown knowns, and unknown unknowns. That means known knowns is what are your strengths or your behaviors that you think you are exhibiting, and others are able to visualize those and they accept that those are your strengths. Those are known to you and those are known to the people you interact with. The second quadrant is known unknowns. That means you think you are exhibiting those behaviors, you think you have these strengths, but others don't recognize. That means either you are not exhibiting them enough or they are not explicitly visible to those people. So those become your unrealized strengths or hidden strengths, right? Rather unrealized strengths. The third one is about unknown knowns. That means you don't know you have those strengths, but others are able to visualize. You don't know you are exhibiting those behaviors, and it may be positive or negative again, but others are able to see those positively or negatively, and those become your blind spots. And the last but not the least is the unknown unknowns. Of course, you don't know and others also don't know, that can evolve over a period of time. So you are talking about when you are doing 360-degree feedback, finding out your realized personality, your hidden personality, and also the blind spots that you carry, positive or negative, and that gives a great reflection for you to think and create your own personal development plans. So 360-degree feedback again is a great way to go. Last but not the least, again, communication style. How do you communicate with people? How do they see your communication to be, right? That is something to think about. Communication style, again, there are some free tests that you can go and do, understand, and it's a reflection by yourself. How, given a situation, you interact with people, how, given a situation, you choose the type of words that when you communicate or within your communication. So those things will also make or break a conversation, or make or break the trust completely. You might have built trust over many years, but choosing one wrong word in a conversation can totally break the trust. So understanding how you communicate with people and what is their expectation of your communication style also can make or break the trust. Okay, that brings us to the end of this particular conversation, which or this particular video. So if you have any questions, please feel free to drop in the comments below, or you can always reach out to me. On the channel you have my LinkedIn connection, you also have my website, or even on YouTube you can drop in and we can definitely connect. I hope this video is valuable to you and you find something as a takeaway from this particular video. Please feel free to provide your feedback, your comments, your questions, your suggestions, and share your experience, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also like this video so that you are notified about all the future videos that are published. Thank you.